Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair ragale, ni hao, chune shumme, washmale, ohio gozaimasu, guten morgen. Hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shama chatore, ahlan wasalan marhaba, buna, mucho gracias, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside the very fabulous, the very stunning, the very marvelous, the very ecstatic, the very superb ladies and gentlemen. Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan. Hello Shiza, how are you today?
I'm absolutely great and, even better after hearing this sweet words early in the morning. Thank you so much. How are you?
Well, I think today I'm not very fine, and
Oh,
it's because of the fact that I just got back to the gym,
okay.
and then my trainer actually told me that you actually need to start taking protein shakes.
Okay.
So I think those protein shakes are not having a good impact on my stomach,
Oh.
so they're not friends right now. But I think I'm going to push it a little harder as well. But other than that, I think everything is fine and superb. And for all those people who we are actually opening our windows of hope
And love.
and love and peace, ladies and gentlemen. As you all know, that we every day we try to actually come up with a topic which is of
Yes.
imperative nature and which is going to have an impact on people out
Right.
there as well. So I think today we have picked up on one of those topics as well. We see that in news quite often.
Right, absolutely. And especially with our TV channels, I mean, every other day, almost every other hour, you come across such a story where a man or a young kid, a boy slash a girl, are, sometimes exposed to or even prone to taking drugs in any forms.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they ruin their lives and all the people associated with them as well.
Exactly.
That is what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. We always say PTV loves to educate you. Please go on. I'm having a strep
Yeah,
here.
it's perfectly all right. But there's one question. So we obviously want to do it in a very lighter, on a very lighter note
Yes.
as well. So before we move on what we are talking about or how are we going to go about it, there's one thing which I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
How are kids young? This is one thing
This
I
is the
want.
second time he's doing this. It's not even.
Oh, come on, we're colleagues,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
on a lighter. And I think that this is a very common mistake people these days make, young kids, young teenagers. I
It's
mean,
like
if they're teenagers, they're already young. Come on, stop
it's
saying
like
that.
it's
Yeah.
like saying Sunday ka din.
Sunday ka itwar. I think that's what it was. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, coming back to drug abuse, I think
Yeah.
drug abuse is a growing menace over here in Pakistan, and unfortunately, from one of our neighboring countries, I think they
Yeah.
are the ones who are actually adding on to that as well. But other than
Afghanistan.
that, I think that since the new government has actually taken the office as well, they have actually made sure that that all of those people who are actually selling these drugs should be dealt with justice too
Right.
as well. But then
Absolutely.
one way or the other, since it's a trillion-dollar industry globally as well, I think that they make a way. But to fight this menace, I think what we need to do is that we actually need to educate our children,
Absolutely.
educate our elderly as well, that this is something which is not beneficial for health, and we
Absolutely.
really need to look after it as well.
You know what? More than educating, I feel like we need to adopt the way ourselves so that we can create an example, right? And
Exactly.
speaking of stats, according to the latest UN reports, around 8.9 million Pakistanis are drug users,
Yeah.
irrespective of the gender. They can be, males or females. Imagine that. And some articles even said that Pakistan happens to be the, largest country with such a large number of drug users. I would like not to believe that, but it was almost authentic.
Exactly, it was. And then, ladies and gentlemen, half of the time we might not be able to put the 100% truth right in front of you. But then I think one
Right.
way or the other, almost every individual goes or probably pass from a phase
Yeah.
where he or she is actually surrounded by people who are drug users or
Yeah.
who are drug abusers as well. And then to control yourself within that certain situation, I think it does get difficult. And then
Right.
especially talking about kids or teenagers, I think what they do is that they want to do it just out of fun or probably just to try what's going to happen. Or then, there's this other person who actually kind of motivates the other person, oh yeah, tu try to karna, tujhe phir pata chalega, or tu dar gaya, and sentiments like these. So for parents who are out there, I know that these days you have to be really busy to actually manage all the house chores as well, all the expenses as well, and then parents are not left with much amount of time to consolidate with their kids as well or to sit down with them. And
Absolutely.
in result, what they do is just to kind of balance it off, what they do is that they have started giving their children a lot of or a huge amount of money so that they can go to any restaurant, be with their
Right.
friends and whatnot. But eventually, I guess unfortunate it is for all of those people who actually find out that their kids are on something of that sort, and then they do not want to do anything because they think
Right.
that, you know, other people will say quite a lot of stuff. So it's not
Absolutely.
other people's life, it's your kid's life. Please make sure to be emphasized on that.
Right. And you know, Shazad, people who do develop such habits, of course, they do need help, and it is okay to look out for help because this was few months ago. Demi Lovato, we all know her,
Yeah.
right? She ended up in the hospital because, of course, she was into substance abuse. And then she even said, and then Ben Affleck as well, they
Ben
said, you
Affleck,
know,
yes.
it's not to be weak if you seek out help. It's only
Exactly.
courageous, and it's not failure if you go to someone and say, I need help.
And he's been in outpatient care as well, and then, you know, he posted this picture on Instagram, and I think everybody needs to take motivation from him.
Yeah.
There's this one thing which I would love to change in, you know,
Okay.
in my lifetime, and that is that whenever a drug abuser or a drug user, you know, they go to a rehab, they come back, they're all good, they're all fine. They still say that, you know, they're not cured. You know, for all those people who are actually drug abusers or drug users, they do not use the word that they have been cured.
Okay.
You know, there are chances of relapses, and I want to change this sentiment. And I think that people knowing that, you know, we still haven't cured, so why not give it another try or something of that sort if there are chances of relapses. So I think that we really need to come up with a term which actually entails on saying or describing that somebody who's gone through the treatment is cured and is not going to have a relapse. I think this is
Right.
something I want to change.
Absolutely.
But to talk about all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, we're definitely going to talk about smoking too as well, because smoking is the gateway to all of these drugs.
Yeah.
But to talk about all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, on my right-hand side, I'll be joined by the country director, Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids, ladies and gentlemen. He's a senior lawyer himself. He's none other than Mr. Malik Imran Ahmed. Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us, and it's wonderful to have you over here alongside Malik Saab. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined by somebody who's been a regular on the show. She actually travels from UK to Pakistan for the show, but this time she decided that, you know, okay, I'm just going to stay back so that,
Because
you know,
we call her
whenever we
so
need her, she
frequently.
can be on the show as well. She's a psychotherapist. She's none other than Miss Misbah Khan. Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you very much for joining us. And last but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined by the Executive Director, SARC. He's none other than Mr. Sajjad Ahmed Chima. Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Well, so I'm fine.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you. And he's actually going to talk about child rights as well, and then,
Okay.
you know, how the situation is within schools and colleges. But Misbah, I'm going to get started with you.
Okay.
Sure.
So first things first, I want to know what's your take on drug abuse, and then please let us know what is the difference in between drug use, drug abuse, and drug addiction.
Okay. So where do you want to start?
Wherever you feel like.
Okay. The first thing is let's stop blaming the substance
Yeah.
and look at the cause for drug abuse or addiction. What happens? What you mentioned was about the time and the parents, and it's a very how can I say, a complex mixture of different factors and aspects that affect that child's or the young person's life
Yeah.
at that moment when they decide to do something which is out of the norm. As I say, it could be adventurous, as you said, it could be peer pressure, it could be something they are struggling with in their mental well-being, or they have a mental illness and they want to find a solution and peace for that. So that there's various factors. The first thing is we need to look at what the causes, because we as a society we look at a lot of the symptoms but we don't look at the causes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the answers are actually in the cause. As I said, there's various causes. So once we know what the cause is, then we can actually look at the symptoms and how to cure
Can you
them.
name a few causes over here?
Oh, it's stress,
Yeah.
it's peer pressure,
Okay.
the adventure of,
Okay.
you know, trying something new,
Yeah.
weak relationships at home,
Alright.
weak relationships with friends, social isolation, anxiety, low self-esteem. There's so many. There's a whole
Okay.
list. And the one thing I see now in a lot of young people I do therapy with, who come to me for therapy, is the lack of guidance in their life. They're very confused. It's like, you know, what do I do with my life? So I followed up to here, according to what the people around me have told me to do, and now where do I go?
Yeah.
And they have that sense of loss.
Then what do you say to them?
I let them, okay, what I usually do,
Yeah.
the skills I teach them is, okay, look at where you have found your high points in life.
Okay.
What parts of life made you happy? Go back to those, join the dots, and then create your new direction according to that.
Exactly.
So rather than you following other people's footprints, make your own footprints.
Well, that's
So that is what usually what happens. Young people coming to me are lost in their direction. You asked me the difference between drug use, drug abuse, and drug
Drug addiction.
addiction.
Yeah.
Drug use is like some say social use. I go out, well, not me, but someone, and they use it for like just recreation use.
Occasionally.
Abuse is when they are actually using it and they become like a holic to it. They have an addiction, but it's not actually addiction. They're on the first rung of the ladder towards the addiction. Addiction is when it's all encompassing. They cannot wake up without thinking about it. They cannot sleep without thinking about it, and it becomes a all-encompassing umbrella. It's like a cloud that just kind of covers them all the time, and all they think about is addiction, and they are now modifying the behaviors to fit in with that same behavior. So everything around them revolves around. So it's like the center of the universe for them. That is how addiction can be simply described.
All right, that sounds, of course, very terrifying as well. But to move on to Mr. Imran over here, this was probably just yesterday. We were discussing that one of the most common disease among men in Pakistan happens to be lung cancer. Again, because of smoking, we all know, right? I mean, almost 8 out of 10 men do smoke and then later on develop such diseases, bronchitis or any sort. Do you have any stats on the number of, the number of packs that we're selling, not even annually, daily, because of course they're too much. And then they are so easily available to everyone. They're so convenient to find.
Yeah, of course. What Dr. Saba has said, I will add 2 things on the drug as well. There are 2 things. One is the accessibility.
Right.
I mean, it's very easily accessible to the kids, to the people who want it. And the second thing is the alternatives. We don't have alternatives. There are less playgrounds around. There are less other creative activities that they can, adopt. So these are the things that I wanted to add. Coming back to this tobacco issue, it's a big issue. I mean, this is something that the government should now make a comprehensive policy to curb it, because the stats are very staggering. If you see, there are 1,200 children becoming smokers every day. This is something we need to consider. We conducted, I think, in collaboration with Spark, we conducted a study called the Tiny Targets, and it showed that these tobacco industries, the big industries, they are targeting our children. And whenever you go to a kiosk or a coca or something like this, you see that that tobacco product, a pack of cigarette, is not randomly placed. It is placed there for a purpose, and it is placed in a way that the tobacco industry wanted to be. It is in the eye line of the kid. Why they want to attract the kid? Because we have 175,000 according to WHO, and according to government, it's 166,000 people dying every year. Now, this number of customers are going, away. The company need replacement customers. So that is why they are targeting our children. So they are trying to bring in youth into it. And as you know, we have a huge bulge of youth in our country. So this is a big market for the tobacco industry, and they are focusing on it. So we need to cover this. In addition to that, I mean, there are, if you come to know that we have 80 billion cigarettes produced and consumed every year in Pakistan.
80 billion.
Oh my
It's a huge
God.
number.
Imagine with the population of approximately, I guess, 200 million, ladies and gentlemen, there are 80 billion cigarettes manufactured and consumed in Pakistan every year.
And one more thing, people that I know who live abroad, because it is so cheap in Pakistan, they take packs from Pakistan. I'm not even laughing. I don't know why it's funny, but it's true, They like 12 euro ka pack hai wahan pe. So, they take
I think
it from
Misbah might have gotten a few calls to so far as well. Can you please get me 2 packs on your way back as well?
My weight allowance just allows me about 100 packs.
Yeah, but sir, talking about that, there are certain rules and regulations out there as well. For example, a shopkeeper is actually not allowed to give or sell cigarettes to a person who's actually under 18. So where does that go? Does that work in Pakistan, or it's not working at all?
Sir, the law is there, and they are not being followed because the implementation mechanisms are not there. If I tell you, there is one law which is called Tobacco Vendors Act, which was passed back in 1958, which says that only a licensed seller can sell tobacco. I mean, that is totally forgotten.
Exactly.
So now I think with the help of, civil society and the Ministry of Health, I think this Vendor Act has been revived. In Islamabad, at least, we have seen that number of people have been penalized on the Vendor Act. And I think that's something that is taken care now.
Yeah, and just one more thing very quickly before we move on to Sajjad Sahab over here, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, approximately 140 billion rupees are actually spent on people who are actually affected by different diseases which are caused due to cigarettes. I mean, this is one thing. But other than that, there are a lot of people says, which is, it's not true at all. They say that, that the tobacco companies actually add on to a lot of economy of Pakistan as well, which is not true. And it is not true because of the fact that I don't think that they are actually paying their taxes as well. Would you mind elaborating upon that as well?
Yeah, that is a big thing.
And this is for one of my producers as well.
In the last 3 years, Pakistan has lost 153 billion rupees in tobacco taxes.
Lost.
We have lost it,
Oh.
and that is and 32 billion rupees is adding up to that loss every day. We have floated a cost counter and a death counter in Islamabad to sensitize people how much money we are losing every second. I mean, this is a big number.
It's a mafia?
It's a mafia. It's totally working as a mafia. They have their people in FBR and in all the institutions and everywhere, and they are feeding their figures to the institutions which are deciding on the tobacco taxation. Now, if you say the tobacco industry is paying a lot of taxes, no, sir, they are not paying taxes. They are taking all the money, all their profits back to their country. The FED is paid by the consumer. So if you buy a pack of cigarette, you are paying actually the tax to the government.
Absolutely.
And even in that, these companies take hold of that and don't pay the government the full amount that they have received from the
So
consumer.
basically, we are paying taxes to the companies to use
Exactly.
our lungs, to use and misuse our
exactly.
lungs.
That's the problem.
Okay, moving on to Mr. Sajjad over here. You know, since we are talking about smoking, I want to keep talking about it because a lot of people that even I know
Oh, by the way,
say-
I just want to add over here, and that is that, ladies and gentlemen, I've been able to quit smoking, and this is, I think, almost my 42nd day that I haven't
I
smoked.
like it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very
That's
nice.
great.
So,
But I
okay,
want to
this
be
is
an
where I was-
example for people. I want to leave behind legacy.
No,
yes.
but that's very nice,
Thank
Shahzad.
you.
I'm so proud of you. But that is where I was going to as well. So a lot of people claim they have stopped smoking, all
Yeah.
right, and so they sort of resort to e-cigarettes and
Vape.
Vape, yes.
That helped me. I mean, I'll be honest here.
Yeah, I mean, so of course it's sort of replacement for cigarettes. So smoking is not going anywhere. How do we control that? I mean, it's an added sort of trouble, right?
Exactly. First of all, you are trying to quit the cigarette, but our motive is, the slogan is that be smart, never start.
Okay, yeah.
Because we were discussing that the children are the most vulnerable. Because if we are talking about children, then we are talking about the under 18 people.
Yeah.
And legally and technically,
Yeah.
under 18 persons are children. And you said that there is a legislation as well. There are laws to prohibit children to use tobacco things. And recently, we gone through some reports that tobaccos and drugs are very common in our schools as well.
Yeah.
And why? Because children are not habitual. First of all, when they are starting, they are using cigarettes just for fun. And I don't think that the electronic cigarettes and things are the first step. First step is the cigarette.
Yeah, of course.
We are going for, because cigarette is very accessible. Cigarette is very cheap and available near the school, and children are even smoking inside the schools. And the second step is the electronic cigarette, things like
Yeah.
that. And usually people use electronic cigarettes to quit cigarettes, like you are doing that.
Yeah.
And that is also prohibited for children,
Okay.
according to the law. But the problem is, I'm talking about the children,
Right,
not for you.
It's perfectly all right. Yeah, go ahead.
And the problem is that we are not seriously implementing the laws.
All right.
Like many other laws developed for the child rights, similarly over here, government has not shown up any action to
Okay.
prohibit smoking. There is no, in my notice, any policy to control the tobacco use for children, especially in the schools and things like that. But I believe that we need to take action to remove the access of children to the tobacco.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of the tool can be the more taxation, enhancing the price of cigarette, because children are not purchasing cigarette that they need it. They are going to spend their a little pocket money for just for the fun.
Yeah.
And if cigarette may be expensive. And secondly, the awareness. We need to aware the society as well. And there are two aspects. One is that children are taking directly, tobacco and things like that. And secondly, they are passive smokers,
Yeah.
second-hand smokers. If at home the adults are taking tobaccos and then children are around, and they are also affecting. And I think that the government should take a very serious action to implement. We need to work with the society, with the schools, and also to aware the children with harms of cigarette, as Malik Sab told.
Right.
And I was reading somewhere that after every 3 minutes, a person is dying in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And secondly, you were talking about who is promoting the cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people like you are talking against the cigarette, but there is, sort of billionaires, like you said, mafias, they are promoting the cigarettes. And I don't know why their voice is louder than us. They are going more successful. They are, because matters money over here, a lot of profits. And
Now, have
things
you
like
seen
that.
their adverts? They kind of combine it with being cool, being adventurous, being the man you are, or
Yeah,
the lady
I mean,
you are.
I mean,
But
I know, lately in Pakistan, there
the
are...
adverts are banned though.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember when I was a kid, Shazad, there used to be one in Rawalpindi which said sky is the limit and, things like that. I mean, really, so think about that. And sir, you said that it is the responsibility of the government. It is indeed, but then again, we as individuals need to play a part too. Like, I would expect the vendors or the sellers to not give it to kids who come. I mean, of course, there are sometimes reasons, mein baba ke liye le raha hu, mein dada ke liye le raha hu, but it's just so obvious. Why would you even sell it to them, right?
Yeah. Exactly, but now, ladies and gentlemen, at this point of time, I want to change the pattern of the conversation. Now, first things first, obviously, we have seen countries like Amsterdam, where drugs are legal, and then people over there are not even doing drug abuse. That's not how it is taking place. And for example, in developed countries, I'm not going to name them, if there are people who are actually addicted to drugs, what they've done is that they've actually given them a prescription. You go to the hospital, take a neat and clean, a hygienic syringe, inject it, stay there, and then go back home, so that you're not infecting anybody with HIV or any other disease as well. But then we have two choices. Number one, either we do not have such things within our own country. If there are, and if the menace is growing, I mean, I don't know whether I can have repercussions for that, but I think let's legalize it. The more of it, if it will be available, I think that people will be like, okay, we're bored of it. We really do not want it. And I think this is based on a story, for example, where I was actually addicted to having fizzy drinks quite a lot when I was a kid.
Okay.
Quite a lot of them. And since my parents never bought one for me, so wherever I'll go, if at anybody's place, I'll just have the fizzy drink first.
Right.
And
Curiosity,
then eventually my parents realized it, they bombarded me with fizzy drinks, and then I was like, I'm not having
You were
it.
done with it.
So I think that this is one way of playing with it as well. And then other than that, what is very alarming over here in Pakistan is that the ratio of women is quite higher of drug addiction and drug abuse than men.
Wow.
What's wrong? I think this is something which Misbah needs to answer, but right now we're going to go for a short break, and then let's see what everybody has to say about these two options we have got. Let's go for a trailer, ladies and gentlemen. It's from the movie Limitless, wonderful movie,
Yes.
and the guy actually came out to be very successful. So let's see, let's take a look.
See that guy? That's me. My excuse for looking like this? I'm a writer.
Eddie, maybe it's time to let the writing go.
But just in case you think nothing ever happened to me.
Eddie Mora!
Hey! Tell me about this book. Well, how much have you written of it?
Not one word.
Well, I suppose I can help you with that.
You know how they say that we can only access 20% of our brain? This lets you access all of it. They've had clinical trials and it's FDA approved.
All right, just out of curiosity, and that's all. I was blind, but now I see. A tablet a day, and I was limitless.
Since when do you speak Italian?
I finished my book in 4 days.
I'd like to renegotiate my advance.
Math became useful.
From 12,000 to 2.3 million in 10 days.
I'm baffled by this guy.
So, Eddie Mora, you do know you're a freak. What's your secret?
Medication.
Your powers are a gift from God or whoever the hell wrote your life script. I'll open up a line of credit for you. You'll be wanting a few toys.
How many of us ever know what it is to become the perfect version of ourselves?
What you doing, hon? You think somebody's watching?
Your powers are not earned. You're careless with those powers. Have you asked yourself what you're going to do when you run out? You'll die.
No scenario. I see every scenario. I see 50 scenarios. That's what it does, Carl. It puts me 50 moves ahead of you. Worth the risk? What would you do?
के पीनी पड़ेगी.
Welcome back to World This Morning, ladies and gentlemen, with Shahzad Khan and Shiza Hashmi, where today we are discussing the use and abuse of drugs in Pakistan among youngsters and elder people, and how we can, or the government can stop it. So I feel like now we should move. Okay, you have something to add to it?
Before going towards the break and the trailer, ladies and gentlemen, I had two options in my head, and that was that first things first. We actually, you know, for all of those people who are actually bringing in the drugs, you know, we make them probably treat with the justice which is prevalent over here within Pakistan as well, and we stop getting all of these drugs into Pakistan. I think this is one solution. Or the other solution is, if people are going to do it, let's make it legal. So what are we going to pick up on? Let's start with you.
I think there are arguments on both sides, but I will go with banning everything.
Because right now it's all of it is selling without even taxes being paid.
So if I remember correctly what Dr. Sahib has said, the causes of why the people go for drug, if we can control those causes, I think people will less go to the drugs.
Okay.
And drug is something that is not very good for the health. I think this is something that we need to look into. And then if we are comparing with other countries, we have to see that we are an Islamic country, and I think any kind of drug is haram in our religion. And I think that area, that angle should also be considered when we are dealing with that.
Absolutely.
And then if you keep on legalizing one after the other drug, you will, you know, the list will never end. So I think it has to stop somewhere, and we need to declare all drugs illegal.
Very nice. Ms. Ba, what are you going to say about it?
If you look at the prohibition era in America between 1920 and 1950, I think, all alcohol was prohibited, totally zero, okay, teetotal. So what happened was the mafia came onto board. They started bootlegging it. They started selling it in black, which was little family called Mafia from Sicily became the biggest gang America
The name
seen.
of the family was Mafia?
Mafia, yeah, they're from Sicily. So they started, they saw, okay, the thing is, we are looking at this as a very arbitrary way, you know, it's like very pragmatic. It's like, oh yeah, you stop everything. It's not. The thing is, you have to look at why people do it, the behaviors that are leading to it. We have to work on those, because the thing is, if we don't look at the behaviors, we don't look at the need for it, they will find alternatives. They will find it. That's a human nature. What we seek in our life is serenity and calmness, and, you know, the whole happy feeling, contentment. And if we are not feeding the need with healthy alternatives, as Mr. Malik said in the beginning, such as exercise, you know, like, look at it as a behavior problem, not a legal illegal problem. So prohibition won't help.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add on to that, Shiza, and that is that I think this is a part of my research. I've done a lot of research on drug abuse myself as well, and what I've witnessed is that if you go back in time, and if you see films from 1980s to 1990s, you'll see that alcohol is being glamorized in all of those films. And from 1990 onwards to 2000, you'll see that weed or hashish has actually been glamorized by hip-hop singers, rap singers, and probably, you know, they've made sure that, you know, people actually witness them in movies with superstars and whatnot.
Yeah, but if you watch movies like, you know, Candy or Requiem for a Dream, you would never even dare to go.
But there are all sorts of films, and then, you know, you come down to a point where you have, you know, people who are actually building up on the legacy of Pablo Escobar. Or probably, you know, Wolf of Wall Street, or, you know, The Great Gatsby. You know, once you're going to watch all of these films of all of those actors who actually won Oscars in their lives, I think that you're going to take inspiration from that from a minute. So in every decade, they have been promoting a different drug, and it's all because of the fact that there's a $1 trillion industry at the back of it, and they want to promote their drugs by glamorizing them. So how do we treat that?
Treat the glamorization?
The glamorization within the heads of kids.
Currently, England has stopped all marketing, such as branding of cigarettes. Everything is plain. Even the kiosks have.
Even you do not know what
you don't know
name
exactly.
of the,
there is no. It's just a white box with nothing on it. It's like, okay, you could be, you know, I don't even smoke, so I don't even know the brand name. So it could be XYZ. So what they've done is they have taken away the eye candy or the attraction from it. So what they do is it's all generic. So you could be buying like a 10 pound pack or a £1 pack. Doesn't matter. Also, they have taken away what Mr. Malik said about the or was it you? Sorry, I forgot what you said.
It's all right.
So it's like at eye level.
Okay.
So what they're now doing is cutting sugar also. Sugar is actually 10 times more addictive than coke.
All right.
So we're actually looking, the whole thing is we're actually looking at things very pragmatically, very like, black and white.
Yeah.
So we have to start doing that. The first thing is it's not about banning, to
Negate.
convene and contradict what you just said, but banning will actually cause more
Curiosity.
It will actually call
Outrage.
a hike.
Yeah.
People will actually go for it. They'll say, okay, it's like, curiosity kills the cat. They will be appeal more for them. So it's about getting to the bottom line, getting to the causes, getting to realize what is actually happening when a person is actually seeking a substance, whether it be sniffing glue, taking, pills, ice, cigarettes, anything which is giving them a temporary relief from what the problems are.
Right.
Then we will be able to get a more wholesome look. And also, when I see people, I say a lot of things, and I say, like, for England, this happens in England, this happens in the Shenzhen states. We are not comparing. We are seeking a best practice policy from them.
Exactly.
Karachi, I was doing some research. Karachi at the moment is #1 for cannabis use in the whole world.
Okay.
So
In
that
the
is
whole world?
Yes,
Hey,
globally.
wow.
Yeah.
Where do they grow all of this cannabis? Or probably
I don't know. It's
In
not
their kitchen gardens?
I mean, so it's not in my garden. And apart from that, the ex-minister, Interior Minister, recently disclosed that 75% of all school goers, school-age children and young people are using, are addicted.
Wow, thank you for saying that. That is what now we are going to talk about. But before that, Shahzad, I feel like a lot of people are right now probably going to hate what I'm going to say, but I might sound like Trump over here. Sure. This is one of the reasons I do not support soft borders. I would definitely want, fencing when it comes to opioids or, things coming from across the border, because when you are looking at a conflict-struck state like our neighbor, right? So they are basically feeding on an unofficial economy, which creates a lot for them.
Exactly.
And they are feeding on Pakistanis because we consume a lot of it. Again, there are, designer drugs, so many fancy names that probably I don't even know of. The targets are school-going, university and college-going kids because, of course, they need sort of, stress release from what? I'm not really sure. So looking at all these students and then looking at the future of Pakistan, I mean, where do you see this going?
First of all, I would like to add my point of view on the legal prohibition. But I believe that this is the first step to develop an argument that one should quit and to hold the tobacco control authorities accountable that this is legally prohibited. Then we all have to work on this. And secondly, if there is no law, then how can you argue? Then other party will argue that I'm not doing anything illegal.
Illegal, absolutely.
Yes. And if you are talking about where we are going now to take the drugs, and we discussed that the children are the tiny targets of the tobacco companies, and what I believe that we need to implement the available laws and policies.
Exactly.
And we need to develop further policies, especially to address the drug use and tobacco use in the children who are under 18, especially we can target the schools. We can promote awareness in the society. Not only the state, but we are also responsible.
Absolutely.
If we have kids, and if I am in the school and I'm a teacher and there are children are smoking in the school authorities are responsible. Generally, the society is responsible to talk about. First, everybody should have an awareness. What is the harm?
Exactly.
Like we were talking about.
And if there's any harm or not.
I feel everyone does know the harms, but it
exactly.
starts with a one-time thing, right? And then you keep developing. Now, any one of you can answer this. I want to know the present conditions and availability of rehab centers in Pakistan.
And before you do that, very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, I think that this point need to be discussed particularly. I don't think that anybody on private channel has actually discussed on this point as well. I might get into trouble for talking about this as well. So an enormous shipment of ephedrine came into Pakistan. Ephedrine being one of the most common component within all of these drugs. I mean, other than drug manufacturing, which are life-saving as well. For all of these extracurricular drugs, ephedrine is used as well. Anybody out there would have realized that, what's going to happen within Pakistan. And since that ephedrine came into Pakistan, ecstasy manufacturing is being done over here, which I believe that is being done over here. They're not imported. People are making those pills over here with no hygienic conditions probably. And I think that what people do is that people are looking for alternates which are cheaper as well.
Right.
And I think all of that ephedrine is going over there too. Now, in a country where, it's happening right out in the open, how do you think that we are going to curb this menace?
So larger than Colombia, I think.
Again, coming back to your main idea whether we should allow or disallow, I think
No,
this
it's
also
not about
relates
allowing
to
or not allowing. Imagine that that the leadership is involved within these ephedrine case as well.
The
I think the
magnitude
courts-
of all
That
this.
time's leadership.
No, the laxation of laws are here. I mean, people know how to abuse the laws. They know the loopholes.
Okay.
Now, I will give you an example now. Exactly now it is happening in Pakistan. Pakistan has banned loose cigarette sale.
Yeah.
So one stick cigarette cannot be sold in the market. Now the tobacco industry has applied to the health ministry saying that we want to export cigarettes to Middle East country. They never give the name. And they want to pack it for a 10 cigarette pack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now in Pakistan, the manufacturing, for whatever reason, it's banned. Now the Ministry of Health has not given them any authority or
Okay.
approval.
Right.
Then they go to the Ministry of Commerce. And the Ministry of Commerce says this law doesn't, law doesn't prohibit from manufacturing this. And they have started manufacturing it. And we know.
Pack of 10?
Pack of 10. And we know that this is only a pretext that we will export it. And this will be flooded in Pakistani market. This
Yeah.
pack of 10. And they want
Exactly.
to
And
avoid
everybody's going
this.
to buy it.
Yeah.
I think and the same thing is happening in UK as well. I mean, I'm sorry, but when I was smoking, so the last day when I was actually supposed to come back to Pakistan, I've stayed there for 30 or 35 days. Imagine buying a packet which is worth 11 pounds a day is very expensive.
Yeah.
So towards the end, I was actually collecting all coins to get a pack of 10.
So
Yeah.
coming
it's
back to
more
your
convenient.
point, ephedrine happened the same way.
Yeah.
So there are some companies who imported this ephedrine under a license, saying that we will manufacture this drug, we will export it.
Okay.
It was, and then they informed the government that the export orders have been cancelled. That is what we fear with the tobacco company.
Okay.
And we now want to use this ephedrine within Pakistan. And that is why we have to bear all this ephedrine in Pakistan.
All right. So actually, the gun is pointing to so many people. We can't even pick, especially on this
Exactly.
channel. We cannot. But please talk about the conditions of the rehab centers over here.
And
Anyone
solutions
who
very
feels-
quickly.
Yeah. Anyone who would like to start.
I'm not. I do not know the statistics, but the rehab centers are actually not rehab centers. They are actually detox centers.
Okay.
I've seen 14
the
days
difference?
in, 14 days out.
Okay.
And the thing is, what you said Shahzad said in the beginning about the person coming out and being cured is actually not. The word cured is not. It's a recovering addict.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're recovering. And
So there's
it's all
equal chance of getting back to what they
Yes,
were.
But
exactly.
they're recovering for the rest of their lives.
Exactly. It's recovering. It's like having your car go to the mechanics. Once
Okay.
it's been overhauled, will it not go again? It's the same thing. It's the same principle. The thing is, we have very much, sorry to say, deep-seated stigmas and judgments.
Yeah.
People in these high positions are discriminatory. They're prejudiced against these things. We have to be open-minded. We have to look at the human condition. We have to look at why the people are doing it. What you said about the rehabs, they're not rehabs. They're just money-making machines.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're just detox centers. What they do is they take the person in, they do a detox, and they take the person out, but they don't tell them the life skills. They don't know how to manage their inner demons. They don't know how to get their low self-esteem to a boost where they don't need a chemical to make them feel happy.
Right, right.
So that's what's happening.
I feel like we don't even have specialists to do that.
We don't.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad.
So I think that, ladies and gentlemen, this entire conversation was for all those people who are out there, and you as individuals within the society can definitely play a role. And if there's something which you think that you really need to stop, I think that you should actually
Take a
stand
step.
up. It's
Yeah.
about time that we do that as well. But thank you very much for joining us. It was wonderful
very
to have
much,
you.
Shahzad sir.
And ladies and gentlemen, whatever meager resources we have, we definitely have to stay within that as well and then find our solutions. One day, inshallah, when we're going to actually make people aware of all of these menaces which are prevalent within the society, we'll be able to curb them. I'm very hopeful.
Right, that is so true. And please, please do not, feel weak to seek help. It is totally okay to look, go out and look out for help. Because if you need it, just get it immediately and, try to speak to people around you, the friends that you think are actually the genuine ones. Try to speak to your family, your siblings, your
Exactly.
parents. They are definitely the ones who are going to help.
And I have a simple solution for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, there might be situations where you actually have to talk to other person.
Yeah.
But believe me that you do not really require anybody to stop with whatever you are doing. I mean, it's just your decision. Take it, go by it, live by it, and you will love yourself more even after, practicing or whatever you have decided to do. I think that, every day you're going to get up, you'll be so thankful to Allah for actually giving you that strength to have courage and to stop yourself from all of these problems. And I think everything's going to be perfect.
Very rightly said. If there's anything you need to write to us, please write on the Facebook page with the name of
World This Morning.
On Twitter.
World This Morning without a G.
Daily Motion on YouTube.
World This Morning, World This Morning.
And if you've missed this, it's all right. We definitely want you to have the right kind of information that we gave out. So watch the repeat at
5 past 11 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, 1, 2, 3.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.